Okay, so I am going to make a little bent staple like so. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all just use this cube. If I hit N on my keypad or my keyboard, we'll see that the scale is 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. I'm not going to worry about that too much right now as far as the actual dimensions go. I can scale this down to actual size if and when I decide I need to, but for now let's just get the general look correct. So I'm not going to worry about that. What I will do though is I will push S on my keyboard and to scale, and then Z, and I will take this down until it's very thin. And then likewise I will do the same. I will scale this on Y and make it a narrower there. Let's just do this a little bit more again on Z, scale on Z, get that baby nice and thin. Alright, so that's what we have. Maybe even a touch more on Y, scale on Y. Alright, so there we go. Now the next thing is that we need to add geometry to this, because if we go into edit mode, we will see that basically there's just 4 vertices on each end. So when we try to bend this, well, it won't. So the next thing I'm going to do is if I push Control R, I get a loop cut. Oops. Let's put it back to where it was. There we go. A little bit off center, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. But there we've got this loop cut. Now what we can do is we can take this at the bottom left-hand corner, and I can increase the number of loop cuts that we have. Now I'm not going to be shy here. I'm going to just go big. Yes, 100 is fine. I want this thing to be able to bend. If I only put a few cuts into it, then the bends will be very sharp and angular. So I'm just going to go with that, and I'll hit enter. Or select that, sorry. With that done, I can be in object mode now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a curve, and I'll add a Bezier. Alright, now from above we can see that it's a curve. If we're looking at it straight on like this, not so much. I'm just going to grab this on Z and move it up a little bit. RX 90 degrees, so that we're looking at the curve this way. Alright, so the other thing I think I'll do is I will scale this curve down quite a bit. And then let's go into edit mode for that as well. Alright, so we can see that there's these handles, and if I go ahead and if I grab this, I can move it around, etc. Or if I grab this, I can rotate it. So if I, for example, I'm just going to use my keyboard, but if I push R, I can now rotate this to what I want it to be. Now for my purposes, I think I'm going to rotate both of these to start out with so that they're flat, or at least fairly flat. And then what I can do is I can push, I'm going to push one on my keyboard so I get it exactly straight on my keypad, and I'm going to push E to extrude, and I can create another section, and I'm going to actually grab it and maybe move it about like so. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to place it similarly. And then what I can do is I can just grab and rotate these to mimic the shape that I want. So I just select it, I push R, and I rotate, mimicking sort of the curve that we were seeing. Now in this case it was almost more sharp on one side than the other. I don't know if I'm going to get too uptight about that. And you know what, I will. On this side I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab this and I'll move it out a little bit, and I'll play with the rotation a little bit to get it a little bit sharper. Alright, now with that done, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to extrude and bring one here almost to the center, grab another one, grab the other side, push E to extrude, bring it almost to the center, and we'll go ahead and we will rotate to manipulate these shapes just a little bit. Got to be careful which one I'm grabbing. And I'm just going to play around with this a little bit until I get something that's about right. Now with that done, let's make this a little sharper here. Now this doesn't have to be exact because this is just a general template for this. This is the actual item. So anyway, with the general shape laid out, I'm going to go back into object mode. I'm going to select the object, and I'm going to add a modifier. And for the modifier, I'm going to go to deform, and I can add a curve. And I will select the Bezier curve. And voila. So now if I go ahead and if I push G and X on my keyboard, I can move my item and get what I'm looking for. Now it's not exactly what I want. I've got more of a pretzel thing happening. But maybe if I come back here and if I scale this up, the Bezier curve up, it gets closer to what I want for the actual item. So I pushed S to scale up my Bezier. Now if I go back and I grab my object again and move it on X, and I go back to my curve and I push S to scale and make it a little bigger yet. Back to my object, and I push G and X and move it a little bit more. I start getting something that's closer to what this is. So there we go. A quick and easy kind of stapled item. I'll add a material on it or change the material color. In this case it's sort of a gold color, so I'll just do something like that. And if we look at it in material view, we've now got a beautiful staple. So with that staple made, I'm going to select my staple. I'm going to go back into edit mode, and oh, it's not quite there. Well, that's because I haven't applied the modifier yet. I'll do that in a second. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab one of the faces on one end, on the flattest part, and then I'm going to go back to the other end, and while holding control I'm going to select again, and that'll select all of these faces. And I'm just going to go to face, and I'm going to shade smooth. And I'll do the same thing here. Oop, except I need to watch what I'm pushing. Let's try that again. And I will, again, shade smooth. Now if we go back into object mode and take a look, we will see that this had more of a faceted look where you could see where each face was, and now by having selected smooth, it creates the illusion of this being of the curves being curves. So then finally, to finish this off, we'll just simply go back to my modifier, and I will select the small drop down arrow next to it, and I will say apply. And now, whatever mode we are in, this has become part of the geometry. So this is now actually, the object is what it appears to be.